This morning, I'm here with my friend, Michelle Apodaca, and we're going to talk about kind of a challenging topic. We're going to talk about hospice. Thank you for meeting with me and sharing your knowledge. What are the goals of hospice care?
Hospice care goal is just to provide comfort to the family, to the patient, and making it the best quality of life till the end of life.
Okay.
We can't change the situation, but we can change the experience.
Okay.
And their goal is just to make that as pleasant and as comfortable as possible.
Okay.
Oftentimes bringing in at hospice, they have a better quality of life, and sometimes it can even extend it a little bit because of that extra support that they receive.
Okay, so help with that transition both for the patient and for the family.
Anybody that's involved with the care, absolutely.
So then, how is hospice care different from palliative care?
So hospice care is a really comprehensive, and I'll get into that more in a little bit, but it's very comprehensive. You have an integral team, interdisciplinary team that will be doing visits and really following through with the family, being supportive. Palliative care, and you have to have a 6-month diagnosis in order to be eligible for it. Palliative care, you don't have to have that terminal diagnosis. You can continue to do treatment. But here in our area, here in Washington State, every state's a little different with palliative care, but here in Washington State, it's a very light version. It's not very supportive. We find that when people are seeking palliative care, it doesn't meet their needs. What it typically consists of is just a nurse or social worker checking in once a month to check on their goals of care.
Okay. So intro into hospice, but in Washington, it's not
supportive, because when somebody reaches out for palliative care, they typically need more support than that.
Okay. Timing wise, when is it time to start thinking about hospice?
There's a couple different times. One is, unfortunately, if you get a terminal diagnosis, you're at the hospital, you're at a doctor's office. Oftentimes, the cancers or those types of diagnoses, you get a terminal diagnosis, and whether there is no more treatment or that you're choosing not to seek more treatment. Either one is a good time to seek hospice.
Okay.
The other one is when we try and get it earlier on, is when you see that people are having more functional decline. Family members, caregivers, support people can see that they're functionally declining. You can see that cognitively there's some changes going on. You can see that they're losing weight, whether their clothes are fitting differently or that they're physically losing weight or not eating. Or they're getting frustrated about their lack of ability to do things. So there's changes going on with that.
So then with that, is it typically the doctor or the family, or is it the patient themselves that kind of raises their hand?
It's all of the above.
Okay.
The family or patient, anybody can initiate hospice services.
Okay.
Contacting a hospice agency, contacting your physician. What that also includes, your physician oftentimes doesn't see those types of symptoms going on.
They're not with you every day. They're not seeing they're seeing stage by stage. They're not seeing the day by day, minute by minute.
Exactly. So oftentimes it's the family or the patient, and oftentimes not the patient, but the family reporting that to the physician, saying, are there support services out there? Do you think that they're a candidate for hospice?
Okay.
But anybody can initiate that process.
Okay. Where does hospice actually happen? Can you stay at home? Do you have to go somewhere? What are the options there?
Hospice actually goes wherever the person is, the patient is.
Okay.
So it could be in a structured home, it can be in an assisted living, it can be in an adult family home or a skilled nursing environment. Or they can do it in the hospital. But the goal is hospice goes to wherever they are.
Okay.
And sometimes they start at their home and they may actually have to move through the process. Hospice follows them.
What team is involved with hospice care?
So hospice is very comprehensive. Actually, there's an interdisciplinary team. It consists of a nurse is the primary point person. They are making sure that they are evaluating them every time they're visiting, that they are making sure that they have supplies, they have medications, and anybody involved has the training that they need to be able to provide that care.
Okay.
There's a bath aide that comes in and takes care of their personal care.
Okay.
There is a social worker that comes in, and therefore paperwork as well as emotional support.
Okay.
Again, all of these are for everybody that's involved.
Okay.
Spiritual care counselor or chaplain.
Okay.
Meeting people wherever they are spiritually.
Okay.
We have physicians that are available 24 hours a day that typically it's through our nurse, but they can answer questions and make changes quickly.
Okay.
And then some hospice agencies have music therapists as well that are board certified.
Right.
And then there's also the bereavement services.
Right.
So that's what hospice provides as far as the team. They typically do visits about 30 to 60 minutes.
Okay.
It's only 2 to 3 times a week for each discipline.
Okay.
So they're not there to provide the full care.
Right. You still need your support, the day-to-day support.
Absolutely.
You mentioned bereavement. Tell me more about that.
So bereavement is offered, so Medicare does require that it's offered for 13 months after their passing.
13 months.
They are. Some hospice agencies continue that even beyond. We do 14 months within our agency.
Okay.
But then they also do grief support. And many agencies, each one's individual, that some of them do it virtual group support or individual support through Zoom, or there's even in-person support groups too.
A moment ago, you mentioned Medicare, or maybe it was Medicaid. So that made me think about money. Who pays for hospice?
It is covered under Medicare. So
Okay.
if somebody has Medicare, it's 100% covered.
Okay.
If they don't have Medicare, then Medicaid, if they are under the Medicaid program.
Okay.
If they're not under the Medicaid program, then it does fall under private insurance.
Okay.
Medicare, Medicaid are all 100% covered.
Okay.
Private pay, they may have a copay.
Okay.
Oftentimes I found in my experiences that by the time they come to hospice, they've already met their copay. So that's the only time that it may come into play though.
In addition to the nursing and the doctor and the bereavement, are there any out-of-pocket expenses that the families need to be considering?
What hospice covers is that we have the team, but they also provide medical equipment, whether it be a hospital bed, it could be oxygen or anything along those lines. They also provide personal items.
Okay.
So briefs and gloves and wipes, which oftentimes can add up for families.
Right.
And then also their medication that are related to the terminal illness and provide comfort. So
Okay.
that's pain, anxiety, constipation,
quite a bit.
nausea.
Yeah.
So that's all covered.
Okay.
So if it doesn't fall within that, like if they have medications that they want to continue to take, it may fall under their current benefits. They may have some out of pocket, but otherwise it's 100% paid.
With continuing treatment for the underlying illness, if they improve while on hospice, can they exit hospice?
They can. That's a beautiful thing about hospice. So hospice, you do have to have a 6-month terminal diagnosis.
Okay.
But once you qualify, if you continue to be eligible, you can maintain it. It's unlimited actually, once they qualify. If they do improve, what we call graduate hospice services.
Okay.
The nice thing about it is at any time, or if they decide that they do want to seek treatment. So I've had people that have come on, wanted the extra support, and then decided, you know what, I think I have the energy now to go back and do treatment. They can choose to come off of services and then come back on at
Almost
any
like
time.
a respite. They kind of,
It is.
they're ready to fight again.
They are.
Okay,
Exactly.
great.
And it's unlimited. So they can come on services and off services and there's no repercussions.
So
at
it's
all.
not a 6-month limit. Once you've reached that, you can. It's a 6-month diagnosis, and then it can go back and forth.
Yep, exactly. And then if that diagnosis is no longer, qualifying them, then they'll graduate off of it.
That's great. Are there any misconceptions that you wanted to clear up?
You've given up hope. That you're giving up, and it's not the case at all. I always tell families that it's a beautiful thing. That it's just saying, you know what, at this time we want some extra support.
Right.
We could really benefit from that.
Yeah, with the ability to graduate out of hospice, you're not necessarily. This isn't necessarily the end. It's the phase that you're at right now, but you're not giving up. I like that. And you have the opportunity to continue to fight and strive.
The other one is that it's only for the last 10 days of life. And that's not true at all. That people, it's so unfortunate that people don't access it sooner.
Right.
They don't
It's a misconception because people seek hospice care out at the very last minute when it could have been available to them for a lot longer. Okay,
absolutely. They don't get to access the full benefit of, hospice care. That oftentimes it's only one nurse visit or just a couple. They don't get all of the additional services that they're eligible for.
If you're not quite ready to start hospice, but it's maybe in the future, when is it time to start thinking about and coordinating and filling out paperwork and researching? When do we do that?
Good question. That actually, I think you're never too soon. If you're starting to even think that you need hospice or that it might be in your future, I think that's the time you need to be doing it.
Okay.
that there is no harm in knowing. I always think education and knowledge is really powerful. It puts control on you.
Right.
Then, and you can reach out to a hospice agency. That's what I recommend. Myself as a consultant, I love working with families, meeting with them, giving them that education. And they may not need it for a year, 6 months, 9 months. But the beautiful thing is that when it does happen, they're not having to be in crisis mode.
They're not scrambling. That is one thing that I did learn on my journey, is that you as the family and as the patient, you have a choice in hospice care. I don't think a lot of people realize that. They just go with whoever their doctor prescribes. Is prescribed the right term?
Recommends.
Okay,
yes,
but you
absolutely.
have a choice, so you can research and seek out who you want to care for yourself or for your loved one. That's something that I learned recently, and I think that's fantastic, because you want to have the right person caring for you or your loved one.
And Medicare has requirements, but agencies can choose to go outside of those requirements. So, and also what they line up with, are they nonprofit or for-profit, or, non-denominational, or do they have a strong faith base? What's important to you?
Right.
What lines up with you? And I think doing that research and having those choices.
Right.
A lot of people, you're absolutely right, go to their physician. Their physician recommends their own hospice agency typically, and you just think it's the continuum of care. And once you get on hospice, that's not as much relevancy with that.
Had no idea until you know. So as we're moving into hospice care, what documentation, what forms, what do we need to prepare in order to be ready?
Absolutely. So it's really important that people have healthcare power of attorney in place. Many people don't. Many people don't expect it. And so people are having to make decisions whether they want to or not in a difficult situation. One of the other paperwork that your physician should be providing to you, it's called a physician ordered life-sustaining treatment. It's pretty standard that it's this color. And what it's doing is helping us honor your wishes. And this should be done at any time. Actually, every individual should have it. It's indicating
emergencies happen. They're not planned. That's why they're emergencies.
Exactly. And so it indicates whether you want CPR or not, and what type of nutrition and supplements you want. And this indicates, and what they recommend, this is also what EMTs, fire departments, any emergency personnel honor. And so they can honor that wish. And so otherwise you're a full code. And oftentimes as people age, they say, I don't want that. And this is the only way that they can be honored.
They can communicate what they want while they have the clear ability to communicate it.
Absolutely.
That's really important. Okay, as we wrap up here, what's one thing you wish more people knew about hospice care?
A lot of people don't know it's 100% covered under their insurance.
And maybe that's why they wait so long to seek it out.
And all the benefits that are included. As I said, that oftentimes there are people, when I meet with people, that they've already purchased all the equipment. They're purchasing the, personal items. And that's a huge expense for them. They've already exhausted all that. And when they could actually have a hospice come in and help coordinate that, help support that.
And lift that burden.
Absolutely.
And so you can focus on loving and supporting your loved one the best way you can.